The champagne glasses clinked as my mother-in-law, Patricia, celebrated what she thought was her greatest victory. "To my son's new beginning," she announced proudly. Our entire family had gathered at Laan, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. I stood quietly by their table dressed in my waitress uniform watching the scene unfold. "Sarah dear," Patricia turned to me with that familiar smirk. "I suppose we should thank you for serving us tonight. It's fitting really, this is where you belong. Serving your betters." My hands didn't shake as I poured more champagne into her glass. 5 years of marriage to her son James had taught me to expect the worst from Patricia Sterling. But even I hadn't anticipated this level of cruelty. "Mother," James protested weakly, avoiding my eyes. "Maybe we should discuss this privately." "Nonsense." Patricia waved a dismissive hand. "Everyone needs to know James is finally marrying someone worthy of the Sterling name. Sophia Chin, the daughter of that famous chef everyone's talking about. No more pretending that a mere waitress could ever fit into our world." I carefully set down the champagne bottle. Across the table, my sister-in-law, Emma, couldn't hide her gleeful smile. The entire Sterling family sat watching my public humiliation with varying degrees of satisfaction and discomfort. "Would you like to see the dessert menu?" I asked, my voice steady and professional. Patricia laughed. Sharp, cold, cruel. "Oh, you're still trying to maintain dignity? How quaint. Tell me, how does it feel knowing my son is upgrading to someone who actually understands fine dining instead of just serving it?" I could have ended their celebration right then. One word from me and the maitre d' would have thrown them out. After all, I didn't just work at Laan, I owned it. Along with 12 other high-end restaurants across the country. But patience had always been my strongest virtue. "I hope you enjoy your evening," I replied simply, turning to walk away. "Wait," James called out, finally finding his voice. "Sarah, we should talk about this. I didn't want you to find out this way." I paused, looking at the man who had promised to stand by me, swore his mother's disapproval wouldn't matter, yet had been seeing Sophia Chin behind my back for months. "There's nothing to talk about," I said quietly. "Your mother's right about one thing. This is exactly where I belong. Let them think I meant as a waitress. People see what they expect to see." In the kitchen, my head chef Marcel raised an eyebrow. "Madam." "Not yet," I murmured. "Let them finish their meal." At 25, I'd inherited my grandmother's first restaurant, Liaison, working my way up from dishwasher to manager under her guidance. By the time I married James at 28, I'd expanded to 3 locations. Now, at 33, my empire was worth millions. But Patricia still believed I was just a waitress who'd trapped her precious son. My phone buzzed. A text from James. "Can we please talk about this? Sophia understands our world in a way you never could." I screenshotted it and added it to my growing file of evidence. Another buzz. "Mother says you can keep the apartment we've been living in." He's being generous. Generous? The apartment they thought was a rental was one of my properties. The same building where Sophia lived in a penthouse, paying rent to my management company. I called my lawyer. "Deanna, it's time. File the papers Monday morning and flag the Sterling family's accounts at all my restaurants." "Yes, ma'am," she replied. I reviewed security footage from Sophia's penthouse lobby. James entering at all hours, claiming he was working late. Every visit time-stamped and saved. Through the kitchen doors, Patricia's voice carried. "Finally, our James will have a wife who appreciates fine cuisine, understands wine pairings and proper table settings. No more embarrassing moments at charity galas." I smiled, remembering the galas where I played the part of the unsophisticated wife, while secretly signing checks funding those very events. A new text came from Emma. "You didn't really think you could keep him, did you? Mother's been working on this match for months." Perfect. More proof of premeditation. I messaged my managers. "Flag any reservations under Chin or Sterling. Full documentation of visits, charges and footage." "Already done, boss," came the reply. "Cancel their current reservation? No. Let them enjoy their last meal at any of our establishments." What Patricia didn't know. Sophia's father had approached me 6 months ago to sell his struggling restaurant group. The papers would be signed next week, adding his 4 locations to my portfolio. Soon, Sophia's father would learn his future daughter-in-law's enemy was his new boss. Then came the alert from my bank. James had tried to pay for the dinner with our joint credit card. Declined just as planned. I approached their table. Is there a problem with the payment? Patricia's face reddened. James, what's going on? I don't understand. All my cards are declining. How embarrassing, I murmured. Shall I ask the manager to come over? Yes. Patricia snapped. We're the Sterling family. We don't have payment problems. Moments later, Marcel appeared at their table. Madam Sterling, I regret to inform you your family's accounts have been flagged. We cannot accept payment from you at this time. This is outrageous. Call the owner immediately. The owner is already aware, Marcel replied. In fact, she's the one who flagged your accounts. The owner. James frowned. What does the owner have to do with? His phone buzzed. A message from me in the family group chat James had created to share his big news. Since you're having trouble with the bill, I'll take care of it. Consider it my wedding gift to James and Sophia. After all, that's what family does, right? I watched from my office as their phones lit up. Patricia read my message, her face twisting. She's just a waitress, she spat. Another message from me appeared. Oh, and Patricia, you might want to check who owns the building where Sophia lives. The same person who owns this restaurant and 12 others across the country. Silence fell over the table. That's impossible, James whispered. I could see the dawning horror on James's face as the pieces finally clicked together. My comfortable lifestyle despite my waitress salary, my hidden expertise in fine dining, and the quiet confidence I'd maintained despite his mother's constant criticism. My phone buzzed one last time that evening. We need to talk. No. I walked out of my office and through the kitchen, straightening my waitress uniform. It was time to greet my guests properly. James stood up as I approached their table, pale and shaken. You own. Among other things, I replied calmly, removing my apron. Marcel, please ensure the Sterling family's meal is charged to my personal account. Patricia's face flushed crimson. This is some kind of trick. You're just a waitress. We've watched you serve tables for years. Actually, Mother, I said, emphasizing the title she'd never let me use. You've been watching me manage my business. There's a difference. Emma, my sister-in-law, was frantically Googling. Her eyes widened. Laan Group, 13 high-end restaurants. Founder, Sophia Chin Montgomery. He looked up in shock. Montgomery, your grandmother's name? The same grandmother you mocked at our wedding for being just a cook, I reminded her. She built this empire from nothing. I've spent the last 5 years expanding it. James slumped into his chair. All those times you stayed late at work. I was running my business, just like all those times you claimed to be working late, when you were actually visiting Sophia in the penthouse apartment she rents from my company. Patricia shot up from her chair so fast it toppled backward. You've been spying on my son? No, I said pleasantly. I've been monitoring my property. The security cameras in my buildings are for everyone's safety. They captured some very interesting footage. You had no right, James began. I had every right, I cut in. Especially after you started embezzling from our joint accounts to fund your affair. The color drained from his face. I didn't. The transfers to a secret account under your mother's name. The cash withdrawals that matched deposits into Sophia's account. My forensic accountant documented everything. Marcel appeared beside me, tablet in hand. The papers you requested, madam. I turned the tablet toward the table. These are screenshots of your text messages planning tonight's little announcement. Notice the timestamp on Patricia's message. Everything's arranged. The Chin girl is ready. Sarah will be working the dinner shift as usual. Patricia's hands shook as she reached for her wine. You can't prove. Actually, I can. Including the fact you've known about the affair for months and helped orchestrate this public humiliation. I swiped to the next screen. These are records of your meetings with Sophia's father, planning what you thought would be a profitable business merger through marriage. Sarah, please, James leaned forward. We can talk privately. Like you talked privately with Sophia in her apartment? Or privately with your mother about minimizing the divorce settlement you'd have to pay your waitress, wife. Emma gasped, still scrolling. The Laan Group's worth, oh my God. Yes, I nodded. Quite a bit more than the Sterling family fortune. Speaking of which, I turned to Patricia. You might want to reconsider that charity gala next month. Your usual venue just became unavailable. You can't do that. Patricia sputtered. I own the venue. I can do whatever I want. I pulled up another document on the tablet. Just like I can do this. James peered at the screen, his face blanching further. Is that? Divorce papers, I said. Filed Monday morning. They include full documentation of your affair, your financial misconduct, and your mother's role in both. Patricia opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. Every restaurant you visited with Sophia. Every hotel charged to our account. Every transfer of money. Every text message. Every camera angle. I have it all. The silence at the table was suffocating. You know, I said conversationally, I've always wondered, was it really because you thought I was just a waitress, Patricia? Or was it because deep down, you knew I was more successful than your entire family? This is blackmail, she hissed. No, I said smoothly. This is business. Something you clearly don't understand as well as you think you do. I turned to James. By the way, Sophia's father is selling his restaurant group. Guess who's buying it? His jaw dropped. You're the buyer? The papers will be signed next week. I imagine that might make future family dinners awkward. Assuming Sophia still wants to marry into the Sterling family after she learns her father's new boss is her fiancé's ex-wife. Patricia grabbed her purse. We're leaving, James. Come on. Oh, please stay, I said sweetly. Your credit cards may be declining, but this meal is on me. Consider it a parting gift. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the message and laughed. Oh, and Trish, you might want to check your account balance. Your financial advisor just received some very interesting documentation about your involvement in James's embezzlement. The book. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and relentless media coverage. The society pages devoured the scandal. Successful restaurant owner dismantles cheating husband's family empire. To her credit, Sophia ended the engagement immediately. Her father was surprisingly gracious when we finalized the sale of his restaurants. I should have known, he said, shaking his head. The way you analyzed the financials, no waitress would have that knowledge. Patricia and James tried to fight the divorce settlement, but the evidence was overwhelming. Their attempt to claim part ownership of my business was dismissed instantly. The judge had been almost amused. Let me get this straight. You're claiming Mrs. Montgomery deceived you by running her own business while allowing you to underestimate her? The Sterling family's social standing collapsed. Patricia's charity gala was cancelled when every upscale venue in the city suddenly became booked. James's business contacts stopped returning calls. Emma's attempt to apologize was met with screenshots of her own texts encouraging the affair. She never contacted me again. 1 year after that fateful dinner, I owned 17 restaurants, including the 4 I'd bought from Sophia's father. And the Sterlings? They were still trying to get a reservation at Laan. I sat in my office at Laan, reviewing plans for my newest restaurant. The door opened and Marcel stepped in with a familiar face. Miss Chin, I greeted. Sophia, what can I do for you? She shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to apologize. I never knew about your connection to the restaurant group. When James's mother approached me, you saw an opportunity, I finished for her. I understand. Business is business. That's actually why I'm here, she said, pulling out a folder. I have a business proposition, a new restaurant concept I'd like you to consider. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Even after everything? Especially after everything. You turned a single restaurant into an empire while letting everyone underestimate you. That's the kind of mentor I need. I thought of my grandmother, of all the lessons she taught me about business and life. Sometimes, I said, opening the folder, the best revenge is success. And sometimes the best success comes from unexpected places. Does that mean you'll look at my proposal? I'll do better than that, I replied. I'll teach you what my grandmother taught me. Never let them see everything you are. Keep something in reserve. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. James is getting married again. I expect you to release the venue restrictions. I showed the message to Sophia, who laughed. Still trying to control everything, she said. Some people never learn, I replied, then typed out my response. Congratulations. I wish James and his new bride all the success they deserve. By the way, I just bought the company he works for. Expect restructuring announcements soon. I set my phone aside and turned back to Sophia's proposal. Now, Tell me about this restaurant concept of yours. The society pages loved that story too. Ruthless restaurant mogul mentors former rival. Proving success is the best revenge. But they missed the real story. It wasn't about revenge at all. It was about power. Not the shallow power Patricia had craved, built on name and status, but real power, built on hard work, quiet strategy, and careful planning. My grandmother would have been proud. 5 years later, I hosted the grand opening of my 20th restaurant. Patricia and James weren't invited, of course, but I made sure they received photos. I was cutting the ribbon. Sophia, now my top restaurant developer, stood beside me presenting our expansion plans. Our former social circle celebrated our success. James sent one final text. I should have known. All those years you were so much more than you seemed. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My success spoke louder than any words could. On the wall of my office, a framed waitress apron tells the story better than I ever could. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better." Beside it hangs my grandmother's favorite saying, "Let them underestimate you, just make sure they're wrong."